White just came out in theaters this weekend and made a lot of people mad. If you're like me and you have a life outside of the internet and heard absolutely nothing about the drama surrounding incels on the internet being mad at Rachel Zegler, and you went into Snow White, it might have actually had an incredible time, because I did a lot of pre-game and internet studying in order to see what the general appeal was for this Disney live-action adaptation, and it seems like the internet critics hated this movie. And I remember seeing some of the main critiques being about Rachel Zegler herself and her imposed changes on the Snow White franchise, which really translates to everyone looking for a reason to complain about Snow White's skin, as well as the girl's boss empowerment message that is conveyed in this telling, opting out for the damsel in distress storyline that we know most Snow White adaptations for, as well as several other changes that in my personal opinion make this retelling work better than the 1937 original Disney version, because even though the negative reviewers may be pretending to be worried about faithfulness to the original version, these modern twists make these movies watchable and enjoyable in a way for the modern audiences that are meant to them. So while it definitely might not be the most ideal retcon for Snow White to become a film about female leadership to white incels in the YouTube commentary and gaming community, it shouldn't really matter because the target demographic for the live action Snow White movie isn't them in the first place. But one thing I will say, that this film is not without its flaws. CGI is very glaring at times, even though there's obviously bound to be an erroneous amount present in a Disney fantasy. There's also the topic of Snow White's love interest and how the classic prince has been traded off in favor of a revolutionary thief that has pledged allegiance to the king. There's a lot for us to cover in this video, but first leave a like, subscribe to the channel, also click that notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a video, and share this video with someone who loves Snow White. Now let's talk about the 7 dwarves, because the 7 dwarves in Snow White are easily the most disturbing part of the movie, and it's not about the characters themselves, it's more so about their physical appearance, and I can only imagine how difficult it must have been for Rachel to act out her scenes with the dwarves solely relying on her own presence, but it's ultimately proof how great of an actor she is. Another aspect of the movie I think definitely needs to be mentioned is Gal Gadot and her performance as the queen, because regardless of how you feel about any of the actors, what they delivered to us in this film is more than just adequate, it's entertaining. The music in this movie was the most pleasant surprise, as I felt that it was the aspect of the movie that I was expecting the least innovation out of, and I was left more than pleasantly surprised with what was given. Rachel Zegler is also from the same place as me and was born in the same month, so I'm definitely starting to fully grasp how little I've accomplished so far in life. But all jokes aside, I'm in love with her singing voice, and it definitely warrants her place among the live action Disney princesses. Another beautiful part of her performance was how vocal she made Snow White in this movie. I've always felt that Mulan was my favorite Disney princess because of the fact that she had an actual personality, had goals that mattered, and had a story that impacted real change. However, the original Snow White was not much more or less than a damsel in distress, and it was definitely a tale of the times that deserved a new. Another aspect of the story I feel we should talk about is the race controversy, and the most I can say about it is that Snow White's skin is not relevant to the character. The liberties taken in this movie make the entire project more universally enjoyable for not only women but just people in general who are capable of enjoying good movies. The character moment that goes down in the movie is when Snow White saves the thief from a cruel fate from the queen, who sentenced him to be tied naked, and here we see that Snow White cares about the people in the way of her father that ruled the kingdom before. We learn that her father was pretty much killed by the queen, who then takes over the kingdom and forces the men to leave their dream jobs and to become part of her army. We're also told that people forget that there was ever a princess named Snow White, but that isn't true, and she is later acknowledged as being remembered by everybody. However, it doesn't take away any of the enjoyment of the film itself. Just like in the original, we get to see a true glimpse of the queen's evil when she forces the huntsman to whack Snow White after her goofy ass mirror tells her Snow White is fairer than, which to me is kind of backwards, because plotting to unalive a little girl for her purity is kind of proof of why she's considered to be fairer than you. But anyways, this leads the huntsman to spare Snow White, since he's not really locked in with the queen like that, and tells her to run into the forest, where he changes his mind, which leads Snow White to run directly into the home of the 7 dwarves. And she pretty much tells them to get their shit together and cleans up and forces her way into their lives in a girl boss kind of way that I didn't mind. The movie gets really interesting when we see Snow White team up with the thieves and revolutionaries to try and overthrow the queen, only for them to be led astray by the queen's army. And we obviously still get the classic scene where the queen turns herself into an old woman and delivers the poison apple to Snow White, which was just as terrifying as you'd expect. I don't think most of us ever realized growing up just how terrifyingly dark Disney movies have always been. It's not just scary, it's real, and it's kind of insane. But anyways, we get to see a moment near the end where Snow White uses talk no jutsu to get everybody in the kingdom to take her side, and it really did make me realize that all Disney movies are successful for so long because they followed the same formula, but there's something about the talk no jutsu technique being done right that always gets me to smile. And the queen ends up stuck forever in the mirror because she crashed out and broke it, because she doesn't have as much clout as Snow White does. And that goes to show you a lesson that is going to fly over most people's heads. No matter what or how hard you try, you cannot prevent someone else's death. Sometimes you will have people come in your life and pretend to be family to get get close to you and try to get access to you because of what you represent, what you stand for, and who they know you're destined to be. And sometimes people will do everything in their power to try and stop that destiny that God has planned out for you, just like he has planned out for each and every one of us on this planet before we're even born. And if you try to stand in the way of that for someone else, God will humble you. So the best thing to do is to keep yourself in your own lane and not try to come in between someone else's success by taking someone else's blessing. Ultimately, that was Snow White 2025, and I loved absolutely every second of it. The controversy surrounding the trailers had nothing to do with the actual quality of the movie itself. It was very enjoyable, and I honestly believe I would recommend watching this movie to someone who hasn't seen it yet and was wondering if it was worth the ticket. There's a lot of bad movies out there nowadays, but this isn't one of them. This is a very rare example of a good Disney movie that adapts a classic story and retells it in a way that is memorable for ages to come moving forward. It was definitely worth the wait, and I'm honestly probably going to watch it again in order to make follow-up content on it after releasing this video. Definitely make sure you go give this movie a watch and leave a comment telling me what you think. You can also support the release of our own little YouTube movies over here on this channel by making sure you subscribe with notifications on. I've also got some Sun God merch available for purchase on my website and a link to the All the Lights Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching. I love and appreciate you all. Sun God signing off.